No way. I had someone tell me that they found a cave in the Grand Staircase-Escalante where a boat was being built sometime in the middle of the last century. So I loaded up my dog and side-by-side and headed to Big Water, Utah. From here, we'll be taking a roughly 150-mile round trip looking for that cave, as well as check out another historical site in the area. The road I'm on now is called Smoky Hollow, but there are a few others in the area that, for the most part, are fun to drive. And you know these roads are going to be good when they go through areas such as Burning Hills, Death Ridge, and Carcass Canyon. The look of this route is interesting with the twisted sandstone features, as well as the general apocalyptic feeling of these large fallen boulders. We traveled along this stream bed for a while, but eventually climbed up to where we could see the more dominant Kaparwitz Plateau. And up here you start to get a sense of how remote, open, and vast the Grand Staircase-Escalante is. For my Lake Powell friends looking back as a frame of reference, you can see Navajo Mountain, Last Chance, and 50 Mile Mountain. The trails up to this point have been fun and relatively easy. But here, you can see the transition to rough slick rock, which goes on in this section for about 20 miles. Over this section, you can see how they carve the road into the rock itself. And you can hear evidence of my side-by-side desperately needing grease. The dog did make me stop a couple times to stretch our legs and take a look around, as well as cool off.
Come here, good boy, good boy.
For those of you that might be worried about my dog, his favorite thing is to explore and go on adventures, especially using either a jet ski or side-by-side. This last section of the trail before connecting with the hole in the rock road is through a canyon that is really cool, which reminds me of the Barracks Trail near Kanab. After traveling a few miles on the hole in the rock road, we made a turn to where I think the cave is. We reached what I assume is a parking lot given there was a car there already. In all seriousness, I can't imagine the nightmare of breaking down out here back then, especially with no way to reach out to somebody that could help. Walking around, we noticed a few weird things like this log stuck in the wall. But at this point, we knew we had found what we were looking for.
Huh. No way.
We could see that there was a project in here, and upon further inspection, we could tell that it was going to be a boat. Something to point out here is that this was probably being worked on at a time where Glen Canyon Dam was being built or Lake Powell was first being filled. Hole in the Rock is about 35 miles from here. The Escalante River is closer, but I don't see either of those being a viable option for launching a boat. My guess is that this would have had to have been trailered to Bullfrog Marina. And after finding the boat cave, we noticed a couple others. So you're probably wondering, what's the story? Well, in the 1950s, two brothers came here to prospect for uranium. Their names are Bill and Cliff Lichtenhahn, and they were known as the Cavemen of the Escalante. The story goes that they came to this spot and started digging into the wall. When it started to rain and they couldn't keep water out of their tent, they just kept digging. Then, over the years, they had 3 caves. 2 were used as workshops, and 1 was used for living. Now here's where I kind of have to stop and laugh a little bit, because I've seen a few pop culture references about how men just like to dig holes. Maybe it's genetic or something, I don't know. Now the brothers here didn't have success with uranium prospecting, But apparently they had success building tabletops, checkerboards, and other things using petrified wood, jasper, and other types of stone. Also, from what I've read, they built machines and other equipment, as well as other boats. But the details are scarce. I did find some evidence that they made their way back to their hometown in Colorado, where they eventually passed away, leaving behind a poetic, quirky, yet manly history. Here you can see somebody left behind a simple logbook, which has years of signatures and notes, effectively making this place a living time capsule. So we made our mark, took one last look at the view at top of the caves, and then headed to our next spot. This is called Dance Hall Rock. Its historical significance is that it was used as a pit stop for Mormon pioneers that were trekking down the Hole in the Rock Trail. This unique rock formation served as an amphitheater where they could sing and dance. Since I have no talent with either of those things, I had to test it using a different skill. And after that sound check, we decided to explore what might be behind it and nearby. We found some keepers, which I don't know if you can tell from this camera angle, but gave me some nightmares. Because if you fell in, you wouldn't be able to get out, which reminded me to text some family members where I was at. Speaking of getting stuck, come here! Although I'm against rock graffiti, I'm showing some of the signatures and an interesting drawing because it is part of the history of this area. For example, we see this guy who came back multiple times over 3 different decades. As the sun was going down, we decided to look at one more site, a sandstone feature known as Chimney Rock. Compared to other features in the area, this 120-foot tower may not be much to look at, but it is odd to think about how it stayed put while everything around it over millions of years eroded into a sandy plateau. And for the rock climbers out there are a couple routes that'll get you to the top. All in all, it turned out to be a fun day on the Grand Staircase-Escalante, and left me to think a new life as a caveman might not be so bad, especially if I can explore more of this area.